So we've talked a little bit about the process leading up to things. I want to dive into something that's really about the homework process for actors and how different that could be for directors with script analysis. And you read a piece of material, you guys have an exact vision in your head the way that you naturally hear it. We talked a little bit about the spontaneity and what surprises you versus exacting a vision. It's sort of a big guessing game for actors of like what is going on. When we get an audition, it's like a single log line or a synopsis, and we have to glean from that what are they looking for. I always say to actors, don't question what are they looking for. Bring strong, bold choices to the table. Analyze the script as much as you possibly can. Find your own creative choices. I want to ask you guys individually and hear from each of you about what that's like in terms of when you're surprised by something that was unexpected versus somebody that just nails it, and what kind of insight you can offer to the actors about what script analysis means to you, and what kind of nuggets you put out there of like, this is what we're looking for versus surprise me. And also, I know this from myself as a filmmaker. Sometimes I'll have an idea and then somebody will come in and surprise me like, wow, that was awesome. Never saw that coming. That actor's interesting. I want to work with that. So it's all over the map. And I constantly talk about the contradictions of like, there's no exact science to this. It's an art. There's so much room for interpretation. That's why it's so important for you guys to just go out and commit and come out with gusto and come out with strong choices, but also understand the tone, not the mood, but the tone, and make bold, strong choices that are clear, specific, committed. I want to hear from you guys about what it means in terms of script analysis and what you're looking for, and things that might have surprised you or been like an absolute perfect example of like, that's what I'm looking for. So what can you tell us about that? Where's my turn?
Start from this side.
So you're talking about what we do when we analyze the script,
and then
what we actors, or
comparing and contrasting from where you're at versus what the actors bring to the table. In terms of script analysis, there's a certain crux of a scene or a turning point or a pivotal moment that they need to hit. In terms of script analysis, and you get a piece of material, it's literary, it's logical, it's analytical, and then translating that into performance.
So as like a writer, director, you know where you put the turning points. You know where like the scene moves to. So that's not something you're considering when you're adapting your own work. What you are doing with like script analysis as a director is very iterative. It's always like, all right, we're reading this scene, and then like, what's my first impression of like who this person is, or what they want, and you write that down, and then you go through and you get to the end, and you're like, actually that was wrong, and you like change this and change that. I think from like what I would love from actors, but like not necessarily would ever see it, is them thinking about their own characters, but also thinking about like other characters, who they are and how they would respond to this person or that person. Sure, it is like essential for an actor to like go through and like understand the scene, but like at the same time, the actor should never ever feel afraid to ask questions from the director at any point. Once you've been cast, then you should have their undivided attention to like ask them questions at all hours of the day and night. Well, look, you are serving their film, and I'm going to be real. When you're like making a feature film, particularly a independent feature film, your life just goes down the shitter. You don't, as a director, you don't have anything else going on. And so if an actor is coming to me with like real questions, then that is like great, particularly on set. that said, you might not immediately get an answer because you're somewhat overloaded as a director. But I think I'll pass it on.
Yeah, I'll take that one. I'll take that one. I'm going to throw a spanner in the works. Don't ask me many questions, please. Look, I think the whole script analysis, when I'm writing something, it's very organic, and if I have to talk to you about it for hours, if you come to the audition maybe with one question about the backstory, that's fine. But if you want to get into a script analysis mood, I'm not going to cast you because I'm a lazy director, and I'm not going to have those conversations with you because I'm not very good at them. I'm good at doing the work, but I'm not very good at talking about it. So with me, like, if you want to have those conversations, have them with someone who's extroverted like yourself, not with myself who's introverted. And like on set when we're filming something, I will tell you if what you do is wrong. If after every take you're like, was that okay? Did I do something wrong? Nothing will drive me crazier. Just deliver it. I'll tell you if what you're doing is not how I want you to do it. But if I don't say anything, I'm happy. We're clearly very different.
I'm a bit with you, Saara, in that I feel like the material in the script tells you everything you need to know. And if you're not spending enough time with that material, you gotta figure it out for yourself. And whenever somebody asks me a question, my first thought is like, yeah, I'm happy to answer it. However, it's right there in the material. If you thought about it and spent time with it enough, you would see it for yourself. That's just me.
Yeah, no, that's me as well. I mean, not that I'm not happy to answer your questions. I'll talk to you about it. But the fact is, like, your job is to know that script inside out. That's your job, and it's our job as well. We have to understand. You know, like when I shot the last feature, I cut up all the scenes and had cards, and my wall was like a serial killer's wall.
Totally.
I knew all, so I'd look at it and kind of go, yep, cool, day, night, and looking at characters and looking at pacing and understanding like on a big macro level, and also reading the script, going through it. And like, I didn't read the script anywhere near as much as I wanted to as director because I had so many things to do. But when I'm acting something, and it is what I expect of actors, is that you're reading that every day. You're reading that script every day. When I used to do theatre, I'd go home and I would, after I'd been on stage on the whole play, I would go home and I'd read the play again. Just to kind of like, you see the variance, you see where things drift, you see where things, like, you should be an expert on that script, is what it comes down to. And I don't mean that in an onerous or kind of like, do your homework kind of way. It's part of the job, finding the joy in being curious and being in investigating and that sort of stuff. It's different if you have a couple of days on set. You obviously you live a few. But I'm talking about like if you're a lead role, if you're in a role, or if you're in a shoot which goes over, you have a couple of days here, a couple of days here, and then a month later, you have a couple of days there. You've got to stay in it. It's important to stay in it. Maybe you're not reading every day, but reading it multiple times from the beginning to the end, even the scenes that aren't yours. Yes, because you are part of a bigger organism. You are part of a bigger tapestry. Yeah, I mean, it is really important to me. So like when people are asking questions where the answer is there clearly in the script, you just read it, that frustrates me. And I'll be gracious about it, but I'm just like, yeah, it's very tricky. Now if you're asking questions that are ambiguous or there are ambiguities you're looking to find out, yeah, sure, I'll engage with them. I want to answer Sasha. I'm gonna take 3 a.m. phone calls. Not all days of the night, but you drop me a voice message and I'll get onto that when I'm driving to set the next day or the day after because things get very busy. Absolutely, and I want to talk to you about that stuff. I really do. Because what happens in that frame is my responsibility. And if I don't see it, if I'm not watching, if I'm not fully aware, it's tricky. So I do want you to go in fully charged up and ready to go. But yeah, it is your job to be an expert in the script. Because I am. And we should be able to have that conversation where we both go, oh, and then if you come to me and go, hey, so I noticed this thing here and this thing here, and I might go, oh, God, I didn't notice that. That's awesome, yes, great. But if I'm referring to something, you're like, oh, which scene? And I'll be like, oh, okay, sure. It happens here, it happens here, it happens here. But yeah, come to the table with you. Do your homework.
I guess I kind of somewhat disagree. Not completely. So the past few scripts I've co-written with my partner. He's very analytical. He's much more analytical than me. Like, oh my god, so much so. I just brain fart, and he's like, okay, dear, let's turn this into a story. But a film isn't just its plot. A film is its story, and what I mean by that is there's a whole world outside of what happens at the start of the film and the end. These characters that you create, they have a life of their own. There are things that happen to them before the plot, which is the start of the film, before that happens. And there are things that happen to them after and in between that a lot of the time we, as screenwriters and directors, leave out, which actors probably aren't going to pick up, which is stupid and annoying, I know. So what I like to do is, for my leads, I often have a coffee with them when they're cast to get to know them better as people if I haven't already, and I'll sit down and I'll be like, okay, so tell me your interpretation of the character, and then I'll be like, okay, sweet, so this is their backstory, this is what has brought them to this is why they're making this decision. It's not in the script, but it is very important. So yeah, script analysis, I guess I do kind of in that meeting. I would say, yeah, definitely make sure you know the script front and back, even scenes that aren't yours, because every scene is there for a reason. With a novel, you can have scenes that last for 15 pages. Like in Les Miserables, Victor Hugo, for 2 chapters, talks about the Paris sewer system, which has nothing to do with the plot of the story. But with film, we can't do that. Everything has to be there for a reason. And so, yeah, it's your job as an actor to look at all that. But yeah, what I mean when I say I disagree is talk to the director because often, or the screenwriter, because often there's a lot that's in between the lines as well. Yeah.
If I could just jump in. As a director, I wouldn't say I have any shouting questions because I claim to know everything. It's just that, when I write and when I'm writing, I see everything operatic. I see everything, I hear everything, I have a sense of precision. Like when we're in the post-production session, I can tell exactly what shade of neon blue Eleanor has reflecting on her as she walks into the club. Or the part where Roy falls down on the floor, I tell the sound noise, what kind of thumping noise he makes as he hits. But going back to the writing, obviously my experience is a bit different from these guys. The biggest challenge I found was sometimes what works on paper does not work in real life. And you're at Dia's house, we've got 2 cameras set up, time is money, we've got 2 hours to get this right. And we had this scene where Eleanor meets Chris Cochran, played by Roy, and she wants to move into this house because she's new in Melbourne. But my intention to that scene was, these are 2 guarded people that have something that each other wants. Eleanor wants the room, but Roy wants to have someone who's not a complete psycho. But they're both very guarded. They're asking questions, but they don't want to give too much away. But what happened was, I was just haggling over the price of rent for 5 minutes. I'm like, all right, guys, let's stop for a second, all right? Let's all have a 10-minute smoke break. Let's boil down. This isn't working. Maybe this is another direction we can sort of go into. Chris, what do you think of that? Can you do that? All right, let's do it. And also, another way we managed to do that was using a lot of wide shots as well. And rather than, the actors accommodating the camera, our cameras accommodate the actors, which also saves a lot of money and also gets more spontaneous performances out of it. But yes, I like answering questions. Lots of fun.
If anybody doesn't quite know what that means, does anybody want to jump in on that? What it means? That's a really good point you made about the camera accommodating the actor. Because I've talked about that in class about the wide shot versus the close-up, and some things might just be totally handheld, and you have a great camera operator that can accommodate that. And other times it might be a little bit more surgical. Anybody want to jump in on that?
I guess, yeah, so when directors and cinematographers are trying to work out a shot list, we've got blocking in our head, and often there's certain marks actors need to hit, especially when it comes to really tight shots or lighting, because lighting takes ages to set up. What Walsh is talking about there for How Deep Is the Ocean, because it was all improv, we didn't have the luxury of planning shots as such, or blocking, we kind of just set up a camera and we set up a basic lighting system and we told the actors to, yeah, this is the scene, we'll follow you, which is great for an actor. It's like theatre, but with more scripted films, it's a lot different because you want certain beats shown. So the actor has to kind of accommodate to the camera.
James,
Yeah.
I think what you're trying to allude to is that, like, as the director, as the person who controls the camera and what we're looking at, we have actually like an insane amount of power to make you look good or bad, or we can take like I don't know, like a wrinkled sort of like expression while you think we're not rolling and like turn that into like a profound reaction. And, we have all the power to make you kind of like look good or bad with various decisions. So it's not like just you on the day. It's us making decisions about how you're lit, how the camera is moving around you, where you are placed in a frame, what you're surrounded with. If you're like giving a like I don't know, a heartfelt monologue by a lake as the sun sets, it will hit differently if like you're like sitting in an office cubicle or something like that. We have a lot of sway over how your performance, good or bad, will ultimately be received.
And on that, something I've observed in the best actors on my sets, they're the ones who don't chat with their co-actors in between takes. They're the ones that stand in their position where they're supposed to be and listen, because these conversations that he's talking about are happening in between the director and the DOP, for example. As an actor, they can get shitloads of information just by listening.
Yeah.
So when you're not chatting about what you had for dinner last night or what the footy results were, you can actually invest a lot in your own career by being quiet in that, being present in that moment, listening to everyone around you, because that will give you all the information about the next shot size and whether we're going to do it once or twice, whether we still have time. There's also conversations about time happening on set all the time. And then that will give you information about whether you have the luxury of doing this in different ways, or whether you just have to be very precise and do it exactly the way as we did before, just to follow continuity so that the director will get what they need. So just being present and quiet and concentrated, that's, I'd say that after improvisation, that's your best skill. And being in time. Those are my 3 skills that I look for actors, in actors. Yeah.
Something that is a trope in filmmaking is there's the saying that there's 3 films that you make. There's the film that you write, there's the film that you shoot, and there's the film that you edit. And those are 3 completely different films, and rarely do they end up being the same type of film. I mentioned before that to make a feature film at all requires a lot of audacity, and that's 100% true. As an acting teacher, I think it takes even more audacity to become an acting teacher, because what I find is the exact opposite for me. I started as an actor, I always wanted to direct, and the last thing I picked up was editing. But if I actually rack up the amount of man hours I've spent in my life, the most amount of man hours I've spent is editing. Second is directing. Last is actual acting on a set. So the editing process for a filmmaker is ultimately that last puzzle piece. And it's so daunting and it's so lonely. And it's that privilege that nobody ever gets to see but the director and the editor, maybe, and the assistant editor, but nobody gets to see what ends up on the cutting room floor. And I think it's so insightful and so informative and kind of like a secret weapon for actors to know, why did this take make it over that take? I want to ask you guys individually some examples of some of the best, some of the worst, anything that you have to offer in terms of what it's like to edit a film and what stood out for an actor, whether it's like, oh my God, I have 25 amazing takes, to, wow, I have to Frankenstein this horrible performance into something usable. Anything and everything in between, because I've experienced it all, and I've shared that with these guys and so much of it is such a weird, specific film and television process that is film and TV, where you could do a pickup shot of like, all right, that's pretty good. I just need that one moment to land better, or I need that one line to hit harder, or any little specific thing that you can offer to our actors in terms of what it's like to be an editor, stitching together a final scene that maybe you can offer. Floor is yours.
As someone, I think we're all actually like in various stages of editing.
Except for me.
Andrew's just survived it. Editing will normally start off as like this hopeless, dismal place, and hopefully over time you slowly learn to fall in love again with the film that you've made. It is like, it can be pretty bleak because you're now faced with the realization of like everything you've strived to achieve being like only 60 or 70% there. So you go in day one and you put everything together and you're like, my God, what have I done? Why did I spend a deposit on a house on this? And then you start to watch everything, and I mean everything. You watch every single take, you watch them multiple times, you look at them from the perspective of one character, you look at them from the perspective of another character, then you take selects. You take probably like a couple of selects from one scene, or from like one angle or another angle, then you assemble it, and then you fine cut it. And so what you're then looking for is, unless you have a vested interest in like how the performance looks, like unless like you're cutting yourself, and even then, you don't really care about the performances and the individual performances anymore. Now you're looking about the story. You're looking to make sure that it works, that there's no snags, that people are getting caught on. You're looking, as a director, I think you're always kind of like trying to remember to look at it from the perspective of the audience, and then sitting in the edit suite, that's the closest you'll ever be. You're there, you're constructing it, and you are now watching it. And so you're watching it from the perspective of the audience, and so you're just trying to make this thing that flows seamlessly, that like works from shot to shot. And there's reasons why two shots might not go together, in spite of them both brilliantly acted. Like continuity fucks you up every single time. There will be, and it's like even as an actor, you're doing your blocking all right. Maybe you want to cut between like two shots, and in one you like just move your head like a little to the left, like 2 words too early, and all of a sudden they can't work, and so you have to find another solution, because it's kind of, the performance is important, but also not jarring the audience on continuity problems is equally important. And then you make everything look good and sound good with color grading and music, and your performance is elevated anyway. Yeah, that's what I have to say.
I would probably say a word of advice to actors, which I get a lot, which drives me crazy. I get a lot of actors messaging me going, can I have showreel footage from a feature that's still in post? Do not do this.
Don't do that.
Do not. And I will tell you why. Number one, usually a film, distros like it when a film has not been released at all. If there's any bit of it that's been released, they're not going to touch it. Right. Which just means that if I've given you showreel footage, I've just lost thousands of dollars. Not fun. Two, which is affecting you as well, if the film's not done and I send you footage, that footage is not going to be graded. There's going to be no sound design, no music, no VFX. It's not going to look good. And if you put that on your show reel, it's not a good look. It's just not great. What I suggest is if you want show reel footage, do student films. Short films are great. Short films, they can release footage to you because most short film distros don't really care. If you want,
turnaround too.
yeah, much faster, much faster.
And you guys have all made feature films, and you all started with short films.
Guaranteed.
So every time an actor comes in and they're like, oh, it's just a short film. I'm like, no, take it seriously.
Yeah, shorts are so important, so important. And if you want to show footage, student films, short films, wait till the trailer's released, fantastic. Wait till the trailer's released, share the trailer. Also, there's a lot of filmmakers out there, myself included, that shoot showreel scenes. Contact them, so much better. They'll give you a quick turnaround. I know you guys here do it as well, showreel scenes, amazing. Yeah, so my word of advice is don't ask for showreel footage from a feature film. Just do not do it, because then the director will remember you and they'll be like, I don't want to work with this person again. In terms of editing, actually, funny story, they mentioned that we make 3 different films. So I am in post-production of Jet at the moment. We're close to picture lock, and picture lock means that we've got all the footage together and it looks like the story's there. And I say it's funny because we've actually redesigned the script almost completely in the edit. So from how we shot it, the script is now completely different.
Wow.
And it killed my editor and I to do this. But it just works better. So yeah, a lot of the times the film that gets edited isn't the film that you would specifically have acted in, if that makes sense. But yeah, a lot of times, like Sash said, continuity is such a big thing, such a big thing. I've had scenes where an actor's hair changes or their movement alters, and I've had to get rid of a performance that I absolutely loved just because it makes no physical sense and it would be picked up, which sucks. So that's the main thing. Also background, if there's an extra in the background that's stuffing up and you have such a great performance, I'm not going to use that shot. It sucks. It really does, but it is what it is.
Sometimes you can fix those problems.
Sometimes.
Like if there's separation between you and like the background plate, then you can do things to save it during the online. But
it's rare.
things like sky changing. If you're filming outdoors and like goes from like bright hard sun to like completely overcast. Well, it's hard to cut between those things, and so then you look for like, all right, what are all of the? I'm going to have to pick like a lighting style, and then I'm going to have to use all the takes of that particular lighting style so that the continuity works.
It's also not always an actor's fault. Sometimes it's a tech issue. Like I had a whole scene we shot. We had an 8-hour shoot to shoot this one scene. We backed up everything was great. I get to the edit suite and the sound files are completely corrupted. Yeah, so I had to do a whole ADR session, bring in all the actors. That was fun. So sometimes it's not an actor's fault.
Everybody knows what ADR is?
Yeah.
Yeah, additional dialogue. You have to re-record your lines in the booth.
It's your enemy. It's your enemy to be feared.
It's funny because in the ADR session, the performances actually were better. So, go through that.
I love editing. I find the edit part of the process maybe the most exciting. Beyond I think, obviously watching, performances come to life on the monitors, like probably vying for top place. But I fucking love being in it. So I love seeing the stuff come together. I love seeing possibilities arise. I'm pretty meticulous about how I cast, so I don't really. Luckily, I've been in a fortunate position to not actually have to drop that much, like sure it takes because of like poor performance. But I just have to kind of choose. I have to shape the performance, kind of work out what colours do I decide on to be able to move this scene forward, or what is necessary. And when sometimes it might feel like arbitrary to the actor, I'll know that I'm coming out of a scene which has been like bang, 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 and then all shot out of sequence, of course. I know it comes out of a scene, it's really hectic, I go back to my wall. I know that coming into this scene here, I need it to start slow and meditative, I need to be introverted, I need to be like a quiet and pensive moment. And if the actor's got this impulse to like, well, I want to come in and have them come in and be sort of excited, I'm like, yeah, but for me, I know that that's not going to serve the big picture, it's the kind of overarching, the rhythms and the pacing of the scene. So sometimes, and I can explain that, and I often try to be transparent about why to the actors, depending on the type of actor they are. Some actors don't enjoy technical conversations, they want to go from more emotional places. Like, yeah, fair enough, so I agree, you know what? No, they're having a sad day, they're having a really rough day, and I need you to sort of find it in the scene. Like, I'll find something to kind of, you know, whatever sort of juices that actor up, and you'll learn as you go along what actors respond to. Some actors you can tell them directly, I just need it slow. They're like 50% slow, and they're like, got it. And that works for them. You're on an 8 and a 4, fair enough. And some actors, that is completely arbitrary and means nothing to them. And so you go, okay, I need to think about a different way to approach that. Because when I'm watching to that monitor, and when I'm shortlisting, and when I'm reading it, honestly, reading the script, going over my script, I'm already editing in my brain. I'm already editing it. Because the edit is everything. The edit's where it comes together. That's like, as a director, I can be as brilliant as a genius as I want on set and have these amazing ideas. If it doesn't cut together, it doesn't work. I don't have a film. So for me, I'm always thinking about how it's going to cut together with performances, with shot choices. It's kind of everything. So I'm just excited to see it when it comes in. And yeah, definitely there are some moments where you're like, oh wow, that bit's not going to work. And hopefully it's not a crucial bit of performance, and hopefully it's not a whole character. Although I have dropped characters in films before, they've been my friends. And
that to me is such a big Venn diagram moment of like what a director requires for the edit and to piece together the full film versus what an actor has to bring to the table and their whole slew of ideas, and like where that intersects is such a Venn diagram of like what's actually going to end up in the final piece.
Yeah.
And it's such a tricky little thing because you know, actors, you need them to come in with a huge slew of ideas, but your brain might be in such a different end of that spectrum that you know where that intersects is such a tricky little thing, and actors can't take that personally.
No, you really can't. Yeah.
Sorry.
You've got more? Or?
No, I'm pretty good.
I've got 2 ways in which you can help me. So as an actor, a little bit of what Sascha was saying about the blocking and continuity. I, for example, as a director, do like you bringing variety of performance in between different takes, and I will direct that. But if you keep your blocking very simple, you know when you raise your hand and which hand you raise, when do you walk, when you don't walk in relation to your lines. If your blocking is simple and you know it, then we can do variety of performance. And then that really helps me in the edit. So that's number 1. Number 2, particularly for independent films, probably mainstream films as well, marketing is something that's very important throughout the whole process. And given that post-production takes such a long time, it's really helpful for me as a director that whilst that post-production is happening, the momentum of the film promotion doesn't die. And that's where you can really help as an actor. Ask your director how you would like, or your producer, whoever your first point of contact is, if they would like you to help in promoting the film, and how they would like you promoting that film. Some directors, like myself, very happy with you, for example, posting behind the scenes pictures of yourself, anything that you took on set, but do check, because everyone's approach is different. But anything you can do in terms of spreading the word that this film is about to be released, even if you don't know when exactly, in that process of post-production that might spread out to months or years, just to try and keep that momentum going so the audience doesn't forget about your film, really helps.
And that's not going to cut into the footage not being released prior to the...
No. BTS is usually fine because it's not the actual film itself. But you need to
can
check.
ask, yeah, because every production is different. Yeah.
I hate editing.
So do I.
I love writing, I love working with the actors, I love the process, I love being on set. It's all downhill from there for me. It's excruciatingly, it's boring, it's soul destroying, but it's part of the process. You know, I don't want to do it, but if I don't do it, you know, 50 people depend on me and they're going to see their work. So this goes back to sense of precision. I am brutal with editing. I'm absolutely brutal. Every single second has to count. If it doesn't count, there's no point in being there. And a lot of people are getting pretty frustrated with me. I'm like, I don't care. We are not taking any shortcuts here. No shortcuts. And yeah, I've got a few regrets. I mean, for example, we had a very low budget, so all the restaurant scenes and the bars had the same actors. We couldn't really afford to make them dress any differently. And there's also this party scene, and it's very clear there's this guy dancing to this 90s music we put in post. And every time I just see that 2 seconds we couldn't cut, it's like, oh! But I think our biggest lesson Dia will not know all about this was the final scene of How Deep Is the Ocean. Ends at the train station, where, you know, the character moves on, the journey continues, and then the final shot is the train leaving. You've got me, you've got Dia, and you've got the boom operator very clearly in the window background. And we couldn't afford to reshoot it, so it took, how long did it take, Dia? What, 7-8 months?
6 months of my partner rotoscoping the crew out and painting the sky into a moving train. Yeah.
And that was such a simple thing that we went over all our heads. We got everything else right except for that.
That was fun.
Just like they say, there's the movie you write, you have a vision. There's the movie you shoot, you get hit with surprises. Then there's the movie that you edit, where it's either a combination of like, oh, brilliant discovery, this is amazing, I love it, to that's not what I wanted at all, how do I piece this together and make it work? It's all over the map. With starting from scratch, there was a long journey for that, where I wrote a very sort of biographical film about a breakup that I just labored over for many years and eventually abandoned. And it was like, I can't do it. I've brought this as far as I can do. It's a story I want to tell, but it's just not going anywhere. Just forget about it. And I did. And for a year, I just dropped it and started writing other things. And then my life changed. And based on that life change, I was like, oh my God, I know how to write this story now. And I rewrote the whole thing from scratch, page 1 rewrite, in 2 days. After 4 years of just being tortured over this, there's something there. And then my whole life changed, and I rewrote the script in 48 hours. And my screenwriter program came up with like, do you want to save this document? Yes. And I had to rename it, and I just, without thinking, wrote starting from scratch as a moniker, because I was starting the whole script over from scratch. And then it occurred to me, I was like, that's a really good title. Of that 95-page screenplay, I copied and pasted one character, because I was like, this is so brilliant, I'm so clever, oh my God, I'm such a good writer. And I copied and pasted one character that was based on truth. Everything else was embellished, everything else was exaggerated. I copied and pasted the one true story of my life of this ridiculous date that I had. I put that, it was the only scene I copied and pasted into the final draft. I shot the thing, I table read the thing, I edited the thing, I hit my final close to picture lock. I did a crew screening of like 5 people that I was like, I trust your opinion, I'm at my wit's end. This is as far as I can go, I need some feedback. I invited people from the crew to watch the film that I trusted, and a couple other people that I was like, I just trust your opinion, I know you're a good filmmaker. Watch my film, I'm gonna throw up in the bathroom while you watch it. They watched it. A friend of mine said, a guy went to film school, just moved to Los Angeles. He's one of the best editors I know. Come and check out, I'm going to invite him. I was like, please do. We watched it, we talked about it, and he said to me, yeah, I'm new in town. I'll do this for free. I see so much potential in your film. I have a lot of ideas. Great. So we talked, and he said, by the way, that Heidi Ho scene, funniest scene in the movie. I was like, I know, right? It's so funny. Oh my God. That's the only scene that's like verbatim of the truth. Oh my God, it's so funny. I copied and pasted that. This is so funny. This is my favorite character. I was like, me too. We get together on a Friday. We watch the film again. He goes, all right, I want you to do something for me. I want you to leave. He spends the next 4 hours while I just like left And then I come back 4 hours later, and he's like, all right, I did some things, it's fresh in my mind, and I want you to watch it. I'll watch it with you because I haven't even seen it myself, but then don't talk to me until Monday. Just sit with it. So we watched the film, and then the film ends, and I'm like, he cut out that favorite character in that whole favorite scene. What the fuck? That whole like awesome, hilarious thing is not in the movie. And I sat with it Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then by Monday, I was like, oh my God, he made the right choice. That hilarious character that was ripped from the truth is not in the movie anymore. There was a scene from Trainwreck with Amy Schumer. Paul Rudd was a date in Trainwreck. And this is unrelated, but a similar example. Paul Rudd had a role in Trainwreck. His whole first, second, third date with Amy Schumer in that movie, cut from the movie. He had no idea that guy was in the movie. It's Paul Rudd. By Monday, I called him and I was like, you were so right. It doesn't belong in the movie. It didn't work in the movie. It's hilarious, but it's not the same movie. And it just so happened to be the movie that I copied and pasted from my screenplay to this new draft. It didn't fit. Silver lining of this story is that the movie got to film festivals, it got picked up, I got a distribution deal, it was amazing. Once that all happened, I was like, that's a short film in and of itself. I put that on YouTube in its own deleted scene thing as a short film, Chinese High Five. It has 24 million views. It's the most watched thing I've ever made in my life. And it monetized my channel. It has 24 million views. And you know, it was its own thing. It didn't belong. And that's what I mean about there's the movie you write, there's the movie you shoot, there's the movie you edit. And it took an extra editor for me to bring on to discover that. And that was such a heartbreaking thing for me to call that actor. I was like, every single person, my crew, the people that watched the early cuts agreed, you were the funniest fucking thing in this whole movie. Oh my God, you crushed it. You were amazing. And you're cut from the movie. And then, of course, the silver lining is nobody's seen any of my work as much as that one isolated YouTube film that I just was like, this has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So why not? I'll cut it together. I'll make it its own thing. It's 24 million views. It's hilarious, but it didn't fit in my film. But I couldn't see that. A second editor had to come in and see that. All right, so thank you guys. I want to ask 2 more questions. First one has to do with take to take to take. I know this is a big, broad question. I know it's project dependent. I know all that, but I want to give our actors something they can sort of grasp onto that can be insightful to them. When we're working with actors, so much is dependent on what is the actor bringing to the table. From moment to moment, you could have a moment of, oh my God, I nailed it, and I have time. Are we in a position of, let me really surgically exact my vision, or are we like, what else can you do with it? What are some experiences you guys might have had in terms of how far off of my vision can I go from take to take to take on the day to let me really hammer down exactly what I'm looking for? Everybody has different experiences with this. That's kind of how we run our acting classes here. Of like, I see something and I'm like, that was amazing. You nailed it. What else can we do? To, oh, we're so close. We're so close. I just need a pickup shot of this moment. Let me just, instead of doing the whole scene, let me do a pickup shot, because that's the beauty of film. You just need a moment. If everything else was perfect except for maybe 1 or 2 or 3 lines, you might do a pickup shot. I just need to hammer that out. You're in an emotional state. You're exactly in the emotion. I just want to do a pickup shot because you're there. Let's go for it. Can you tell us about that process from take to take to take and what it's like in evolving on the day, surprises, discoveries, inspirational moments, what actors are doing in the moment, and how we go about evolving the actual process on the day? How do you work? How exacting are you? How open are you? Anybody?
I guess with me, when I make a film, when I direct a film, there are certain key scenes that have been with me for a long time, and they're the scenes that I have to have exactly how they are in my head. So in Jet, there's this one scene, actually the scene I had to ADR, which was great, which was my darling for so many years. because I worked on the script for like 10 years before we shot it, and that was the main scene I wanted to focus on. So I remember we were shooting, and I was so meticulous with the cast. I'm like, this is what the emotions behind it. This is what you're trying to accomplish. This is this. And they gave like inputs and gave ideas, and I was like, normally I would be okay with this, but this scene is my darling. I can't. Whereas other scenes, there's one of my supporting actors in Jet, Benji Rag. I gave him permission to improv. I gave him permission to improv, and I've kept all of his improvs in because they're absolutely hilarious. So, yeah, I guess, what was the question?
Just how you operate from take to take and what the actors bring in.
Yes, yeah, it's, so take to take wise, first take, I usually just let them do their own thing, and then I will give them notes. I'll be like, okay, this is what I feel like could be improved on, or we could change, and then they'll often talk to me and be like, that's great, but how about if we do this? And then the DOP will come over and they'll be like, actually, you're both wrong. So it happens 9 times out of 10, I swear to God. So yeah, the first 2 takes for me, I have the rule where I'm a 3-take wonder. First take is usually just a rehearsal. Second take is almost there. The third take is the way to go. So yeah, that's my rules.
Do you like to do a lot of takes or no?
I usually aim for 3, unless the third one is absolutely terrible, then I'll do more.
That's very few.
Yeah.
So you don't like to do a lot of takes at all?
Not really, because I feel like actors get tired after a while, and the scene loses momentum.
Wow.
So.
What if you had an unlimited budget like David Fincher, who does like 97 takes?
Oh no, because then I get tired. It's like, okay, let's do this again. Sweet.
You then have to watch 95 takes in the edit as well. That sucks.
No, that's why you have a continuity first. You're like, print that one. Remember that.
Well, none of us have had unlimited budgets yet.
All right, so there's like, so CCTV Nasty had a lot of oneers, and if you don't know what that is, that's like a scene that like runs out over a long period of time. So rather than like you delivering like 4 lines and then we cut and then we get another angle, this was like one of the scenes goes for 3 minutes. So it's a long one, and so we would have to do that over and over again. And the first time I would watch it through, and like as the director, I'm like taking notes, and I'm like, hey, I want you to do this, and I want you to do that, and I'm trying to pick up everything, and then they do it again, and then I'd like pick up things that I might have missed the third time. So I'm probably not like in the ballpark of where I wanted it to actually be until like the 4th take, and then they're starting to like hit it, but then there's like a fumble. It's a long shot. There's camera movement. There's changing locations. There's lots of blocking. So things just move different. You're humans. You're not robots. So things land differently each time, and so like in CCTV Nasty, I think the most takes I did on one shot was like 16, and that sucked because you don't want to do that. No one wants to keep on doing the same thing.
I don't think 16 is a lot.
I
don't.
But at the same time, like one like brutal truth that probably directors shouldn't admit, but I'll tell you anyway, is that like sometimes you're like sitting there and So there's the lead up to the take, and you've like sat down, and prior to this, you've had someone come in and tell you that, okay, you're like getting kicked out from this particular location in 15 minutes, and oh, such and such is like just arrived and they're just going into makeup, and like, oh, we can't like move this light here, can we move it somewhere else? And then people call quiet on set and roll camera and slate it, and then all of a sudden, like, everything is really quiet, and your brain just goes quiet, and then the actors start performing, and you're watching, but you're not watching, and then it gets to the end, and you're like, all right, we just need to do that one more time again.
So I can concentrate.
Yeah. So sometimes that happens, and the director will never admit it, and the performer's like, is there anything I could do differently? And like, no, you did really good. It's just like.
Isn't that story about Brando doing that? He just like changed slide things just to make sure the director was watching. If they didn't watch it, he was like, fuck this guy. They just would like phone it in. It's not how you should. That's not how you should act.
Yeah.
But it's yeah. I mean, it's tricky. I mean, directors absolutely suffer from fatigue. We definitely do. I don't think on the film that we had enough time to do 60 takes of anything. Yeah. We might have done 10 to 12 of some like smaller, shorter scenes, but like honestly, we're trying to punch through as many pages as possible. So I reckon we did an average of 3 to, well, you were there, dude, 3 to 8, 3 to 9.
Yeah,
between 3 and
3 to 8 or 7.
Yeah, which is a fair
Per angle.
per angle.
So not
wide,
for the whole scene.
Wide, maybe
Per angle.
3 wides. We're swinging for like a minute.
I was there, so I know.
Yeah, 2 shots. Well, that was very fast. We shot it real fast.
We were on a good day.
We did, we did what, 2 scenes? Plus we actually did a pickup.
But we're talking about over a dozen takes, not 3 takes per scene.
No. And we had like,
per angle.
and we did that in what, 5 hours or something? 4.5?
Oh, a full day.
Only because we like went outside and kept shooting outside because we're like, well, officially we said we'd be out by 2 o'clock, but we can just shoot. Do you mind if we shoot outside? They're like, yeah, whatever. So we sort of snuck a little thing in there. We were very sort of sneaky. That was a really good day. It was toward the end of the shoot. We were getting good. But early on, like, yeah, so you're doing like, 3 of the wide, and you're sneaking for like a 2-shot mid, and you're going like maybe 3, or maybe if it's not going well, 7 of those, and then you got to swing around for a close-up on this person, then a close-up on this person. So you're shooting the scene maybe, 20 takes for a whole scene potentially, right?
I would also like to say that Sebastian was incredible at dealing with the day-to-day stress that any director deals with. I've been on huge sets where very reputable directors with massive credits, I'm just like, how are you still working?
I'm very good at masking, but this guy was a very hard time.
I just, from the inside of some of the obstacles that you were facing, it was a stressful day, just like anything. You would never know as an actor.
It's probably hard, isn't it?
As an actor, you would never know the stress that Dia and Sebastian were dealing with on the day. If I can be so bold to assume, I could feel the stress because I know and I heard every obstacle you were facing. And myself included, when I was a younger director, I was like, I would have been freaking out, and I have freaked out, where I've let my stress affect my actors. You did not ever let that happen. And I want to commend you for that.
Oh, well, thank you, James. It was a good day.
Yeah.
It was a good day.
I will mention, as someone who's produced 3 of these directors' films, they all experience stress very differently.
Here we go.
And I'm going to tell you how to do it. Okay. When Seb's stressed, he will get extra nice. He will get so polite, and then you'll go off somewhere. I won't know where you go. Probably get coffee without telling me, and you'll come back and you'll be fine. Sasha here, you'll ask him a question, and the brain will just go, and then you'll answer it when you're stressed.
Is that right?
Oh yeah. Walshy will just.
It might be better out than in. Healthy.
I do remember one time we were shooting the most logistically difficult scene in North Melbourne, the one you see in the trailer where the camera goes around and around and around on roller skates, as Liv is saying, and a mental breakdown.
That's great.
Everything's going fine. It's going really good, it's going really good. Then the sound comes out of it. Hey Andrew, I've got some bad news. What's going on? I have to leave in half an hour. I had a bottle in my head, and
My point is, read the room, because, you know, at any given moment,
I apologize after.
directors are dealing with so many things to juggle, and there's so many components that you're trying to coordinate together. Every department head you're dealing with. Actors are just one part of the equation.
It's an important part.
It means everything to you, and that's important. I'm an actor first and foremost. I get it. Everything that you're doing, everything that you're preparing for, it means the world to you. But when you approach a director about questions, or trying to discover your specific thing, they're literally juggling 12 balls in the air at the same time. So
I'm not trying to justify anything, but I did have a baby on the way as well as making my first feature, so I was a bit on edge.
But read the room, because those moments can sometimes lead to unexpected moments of just like tension, or when you're dealing with a director and you need a specific answer, because you're entitled to do that. You absolutely are.
Yeah.
Absolutely are entitled to ask questions, just like we covered tonight. But read the room, because there's 25 other things the director's thinking about, not just you and your. That's why it's so important for you guys to be prepared, to be able to deliver, and to just make a director go, oh, thank God, I don't have to worry about that. I directed a play a year ago, and I had 12 actors that I had to work with, and there was an actor that came up to me at one point, and he was like, you haven't given me any direction, and it's making me insecure. And I said, that's because I trust you. Anything you're doing, I trust will be fine. You've proven to me that I don't have to worry about you. I have 11 other actors that I'm thinking about that are occupying my limited brain capacity.
James, is that actually what he said? That I'm feeling insecure about?
Yeah.
I commend that actor for being so self-aware, as opposed to being like, James, what's your fucking problem? Like, why won't you? Because I've done it with directors. I've been like, this fucking has problem, and it's like, oh no, nothing. You are solving the problem I have of having that role do well. So that's an interesting thing to commend the actor for actually being like, and it's making me feel insecure. And you go, oh, well then let me help by saying this. Which is already.
He was like number 12 on the list of like, I don't have to worry about the guy. He's good. He knows what he's doing. I have so many other personalities I'm contending with that are demanding my attention and my limited brain capacity, and they're occupying my focus. And then I was just like, dude, what? No, you're fine. I trust you. It's fine. I'm so glad you're here. I don't have to think about you. And that's a luxury for a director.
So think about me, Dave.
So I was like, read the room. I was like, if I need you to rein it in, I'll tell you. And then at one point, I'm like, show number 10. I was like, dude, that was a little much. And he was like, okay, cool.
Now I need to funny
yeah. All right. So just to end on a fun note.
I didn't answer that.
Oh, yes, please. Sorry.
I feel like I already sort of answered it in a couple of my previous answers, but just one thing to add. If as an actor you feel like you make a mistake on a take, never cut. That's not your job, because we might have other ideas. We might think that it wasn't as bad as you thought. We might think there's some other value in this shot that we're going to keep going anyway. And again, it's about that presence and awareness of, if we're, for example, in a wide shot, if you may make a mistake, just keep going. But if we're just doing a close-up of your lines, if you make a mistake, take a deep breath, give it a little bit of room, say it again. And then that will really help us. So, but it's not your job to cut.